In this video I decided to practice shooting hoops with a new basketball that I specifically ordered for outdoor play. It arrived very quickly, I pumped it up and eagerly headed to the court. The warm-up was going great, the shots seemed to be landing, and I even had time to grab a pitch snack before continuing the practice. But here's what happened next. When I threw the ball, it hit the ball right behind the hoop, and yes, I punctured it myself. Unfortunately, I didn't capture that moment on camera, but now the ball has a hole, and it's impossible to continue the video. 2 weeks passed and I didn't give up. I ordered a new ball. Yes, I know it's not cheap, but it's still for the content. The most important thing is that you like the video and subscribe to the channel. That would be the best support. The ball that arrived was identical to the one I ordered last time. However, this time the delivery took longer and the ball came from a different country. Once I was ready, I went to change, packed some water in my backpack along with the ball and headed outside. But the weather wasn't look promising. It seemed like it could rain at any moment. So I decided to stop by the garage to pump up the ball. While I was doing that, the rain did start, and unfortunately, I had to cancel the training. On the bright side, I was glad I hadn't gone to the court, otherwise I would have come home completely soaked. The next day, I looked out the window and realized it was chilly outside, so I decided to dress warmly. I put on my shoes and headed to the court, where it was indeed cold, windy, with clouds overhead and only occasional glimpses of the sky. When I finally reached the court, the first thing I did was show how I had ruined the last ball. It was all because of those balls behind the hoop, which punctured the ball on that unfortunate day. But the troubles didn't stop there. I noticed a broken bottle under the hoop. I carefully gathered all the glass shards, and here's how much I collected. Hopefully I won't puncture the ball and none of the passing cyclists will get a flat tire. Later I even found a bit more glass. Now it was time to get to the main part, the warm-up. Remember, no matter what exercises you're doing, always warm up before training. Unfortunately, I only started understanding this after I got injured a few times, so it's better to learn from my experience and always warm up your muscles. After warming up, I finally pulled the ball out of my backpack and headed to the hoop. To my surprise, I made the first shot. After repeating a few more shots, I realized that was just luck. Although sometimes I do manage to make shots, they are not always as perfect as I'd like. Then I moved to the basketball court and noticed that it was still wet from the rain. After marking the court in my own way, I decided to measure my performance to compare it at the end of the video and see how my skills improve. Stepping back for passes from the hoop, I took 10 shots in a row, and unfortunately, I made only one. I did take more shots after that, and slowly I started to get better. I hope it was because the ball was wet and slippery, which made it harder to aim properly. Next, I stepped back 2 more meters. My first attempt, of course, was a miss. Not surprisingly, I didn't make a single shot. After that, I took a few more attempts, but whether they went in or not didn't matter, since they wouldn't count toward my final score. For the final stage, I stepped back 3 more meters and performed the last round of shots. The first ball didn't even reach the hoop. My arms were quickly losing strength, especially with my poor shooting technique, which still needs some work. In the end, out of 10 shots, I didn't make a single one. Then I remembered a technique I learned back in school, a layup with a double step from under the hoop. This is one of the few basketball exercises that I can do somewhat well, although not consistently, as it still requires practice. My head is actually perfect for basketball, and I've been told many times that I should dedicate more time to it. But unfortunately, I never had the opportunity or desire to pursue it in the past. After a dozen more failed shots, I decided to throw the ball with all my strength from the center of the court, hoping to score, but as usual, I missed. After that, I spent a little more time shooting the ball, showed you my professional dribbling, and almost broke the camera in the process. After regaining some energy, drinking water, and eating a banana, I realized how sweaty I'd gotten. Despite the occasional sunshine, the cold wind was blowing, so I dressed warmly and headed home. By the way, after the workout, I ended up with a headache and had to take a pill. After preparing lunch, I sat down at the table and turned on some instructional videos on YouTube, as I needed to acquire at least basic knowledge to improve my basketball skills. Once I had a general understanding of the theory, I headed to the court for practice. The weather was favorable. The puddles from the rain had quickly dried up, which meant the session would go uninterrupted. After dribbling the ball on the ground a bit, I started trying out what I had learned from the videos. One of them suggested that it's better to shoot without jumping, but out of habit I kept jumping with every throw. After a while I started to manage throwing from a standstill, and I even made some baskets by applying what I had learned. But let's take it step by step. First, I needed to try throwing without the ball to get a feel for the technique. It felt strange as I wasn't holding the ball. Then I tried the same thing but in motion, approaching a specific point and pretending to throw an imaginary ball. After that I moved on to exercises with the ball, repeating the same actions. Gradually, I began to improve, and my hand positioning started to resemble what I saw in the tutorial videos. The next step was throws in motion. I dribbled, stopped, and took a throw. Once again, my habit of jumping when throwing reappeared, but I kept trying to break it since I wanted to learn how to throw without jumping. After a few attempts, I started to succeed. Now, here's an important thing I learned about throwing. It directly affects accuracy. As a right-hander, I hold the ball in my right hand, with my left hand placed to the side for stabilization. If it's positioned incorrectly, the ball will miss the target. The right hand holds the ball so that it doesn't rest entirely on the palm, creating a small pocket for control. The elbow must be in the right position, not tucked into close to the body, but not too far out either. Feet are shoulder width apart, with one slightly forward for balance, and the knees are slightly bent to generate power. The body leans slightly forward, while the back remains straight. When throwing, it's important to the motion flow smoothly from the legs through the torso to the arm, finishing with a gentle wrist flick to give the ball the proper spin. The next exercise went like this. I extended my arm with the ball toward the hoop, squatting down while pulling it back, keeping my left hand behind me. Then I added my left hand but didn't touch the ball with it, just held it nearby. This turned out to be a pretty interesting drill. Next I did some bounce passes, catching the ball and throwing it into the hoop, trying to maintain proper form. It seems simple at first, but after your 100th try, you start running out of energy. Still, I kept going. Oh, I almost ruined the ball again. After that, I took another round of bounce throws and was pleasantly surprised by the result. Out of 10 throws, I made 6. I consider that great progress. I wrapped up the session with an impressive running throw, which I think looked quite spectacular. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? After making a few more throws, I did some dribbling exercises, rehydrated, and ended my practice feeling satisfied with the results. The next morning, I decided to have a hearty breakfast. I fried some eggs with tomatoes to fuel up for the entire day. If I don't do that, you can't expect great results from me. After a filling breakfast, I headed to the court, where despite the cloudy sky, I soon had to take off some layers because it got very hot. Right away, to avoid wasting time, I started shooting. I began with simple shots without aiming for the hoop, then did a few moving drills. And of course, I nailed the ball into the hoop with a layup. The feeling was incredibly pleasant. My technique was slowly starting to sharpen. When I moved to the main court, I focused on maintaining good form. The sun turned out to be hotter than I expected, but despite that, the training started going better. Perhaps because I was now using less energy on my shots thanks to the proper technique. Today it's easier than yesterday. Next, I moved to one-handed shots from under the hoop, visually supporting the ball with the other hand. This helped me better control my movements and focus on proper hand positioning. After that, I continued with bounce shots. At one point, I started worrying that it might rain, and I wouldn't be able to finish recording, but that didn't stop me. After making plenty of shots, I tried another layup, jumping toward the hoop. Then I decided to up the difficulty. Instead of a simple shot, I started circling the ball around myself and trying to score with a jump shot. There were a lot of failed attempts, with the ball flying in all directions, but I kept trying, and finally I nailed it. At that moment I was ecstatic as it seemed impossible at first. However, there wasn't much time left and it was time to wrap up the training. I took a few sips of water and moved on to the final shots. First I did bounce shots. Unfortunately my results today weren't as good as yesterday. I only made into the hoop once. Maybe it was nerves or fatigue. During the training I once again found some glass on the court. It's as if it appears out of nowhere. I just can't figure out where it's coming from. The next attempts from the first position were successful, and I managed to improve my score, getting the ball into the hoop 4 times, but then I faced disappointment. Not a single shot from the second position went in. From the third position the situation was even worse. Most of the time the ball didn't even reach the hoop, but on the 10th attempt I finally made it. It wasn't much, but better than nothing. Riding the wave of excitement, I decided to take one more shot, and again I scored. Feeling inspired, I made a flashy shot of the backboard and then, testing my limits, tried a shot from midcourt. Unfortunately, I missed, but that would have been epic. This experience showed me that even when things don't go according to plan, it's important to keep going and not give up. I made several new discoveries and improved my skills, but there is still a lot of work ahead. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my progress, like the video, and leave a comments about what you'd like to see in the next episodes. Your support gives me motivation to keep going and get better. Bye bye, and please subscribe to my Telegram channel in the link in the description.